Hello and happy Friday. It's a pleasure to see Robin not just once, but twice today. And we had a wonderful presentation at a local networking event. So we thought we're going to take you into the weekend and we're going to give you some relaxation techniques. So stay with us to the end because it's going to be a fantastic way to finish off the week. And we're also going to talk about Robin's new program, which is about creating your own wild well-being. I'm intrigued, Robin, so I'm just going to hand it over to you. So take us away. How do you create your own wild well-being?
First of all, just thank you, Charlotte, for those kind words about my presentation this morning. It felt a little bit last minute, but it was just, I thought, good to share those tips and techniques. So yeah, I've created this, or I'm in the process of creating this Create Your Own Wild Wellbeing Programme, because some people maybe don't want to work with me one-to-one, or they don't want to jump into that straight away. They want to start a little bit more slowly, get to know me, get to know what I do, get to see well-being more from the perspective that I do, so that they can then build on that, and also so they can just, as I say, get to know me and get to know how I work. So that's why I've created this. So it's more of a foundation kind of level to start with. There are 3 levels. I seem to like 3 levels. I've got 3 levels in my transformation program as well. But because I work to a nature theme, they have a gardening kind of theme going on with the names, the titles of each level. Preparing the ground, sowing the seeds, and nurturing the shoots. And
Love that.
Kind of in that respect, it is what it says on the tin. The first set of modules, there are 8 modules, and they're all about laying that foundation, preparing the ground. And for anybody who knows me and has followed me for a while, you may have heard me talk about the environment and that concept of, if a plant isn't thriving, you don't blame the plant, you don't criticize the plant, you look at its environment and what within that environment doesn't suit the plant, because each one has its own particular level of needs for water, light, food, etc. So maybe you need to move the plant, maybe you need to water it more or water it less, or give it a little bit of food now and again. And it's the same for us. When we have the right environment, the environment that really supports us, nurtures us, nourishes us in the way that we need, we can thrive too. And it's not just the outer environment. We need to take care of our inner environment as well. So that's basically what the Preparing the Ground set of modules works towards. It's helping people to understand their need for environment, what level of light, what level of food, what level of water do they need, and also how to create a more supportive, uplifting and sustainable, good, supportive internal environment, so that building on that, then you can start to thrive. The second,
I love that analogy. I just got to say, because the environment around you is so much more important than what people realize. And I think we were talking about working from home, and some people love it, some people find it really isolating. I certainly did. And when I met you this morning, you did the presentation and you're going to share some tips with us later. But for me, then driving in to the office and coming into this environment, I felt, I don't know if we were talking about this, I felt really tired earlier today, felt like the week had just been poof, and it's Friday. And as I was coming into the environment here, I instantly just kind of, okay, I'm here and I'm uplifted and I can just get on with my day. And that sometimes I think we really kind of find that if you don't have that right environment, your whole day will kind of create a different atmosphere around it. So super important. I noticed it really well today, just for myself. And as soon as that kind of calmness came, then I could get on with the day.
And we did a body scan in the presentation that I gave earlier. Part of that is to start to be able to tune in to our own bodies and to have a sense, I call it a body vocabulary. How does your body, in its own unique communication style, tell you that things are working well, suiting it, I'm in the right environment, or I'm not in the right environment, I don't feel supported. I don't feel uplifted. So you were saying about when we were in lockdown, some people found that good, some people struggled. And sometimes it starts off feeling good and then too much of a good thing, and I need people now. Or it started off, it was this real struggle because we weren't used to it. And then we started to get into the flow of being at home, and now all of a sudden we're going back into the office or a hybrid way of working. And it's change as well. Just even when we have chosen that change, it can be a bit of a struggle just to settle into it. So for me, it's about tuning in and listening. What is your body saying? Is it saying, this is great, like you coming into the office and thinking, I've got the environment where maybe I have the space, I have the time, I have the lack of interruptions, or there's the washing that still needs doing when you're sitting at home, or there's the kettle, I could just go and have another cup of coffee. All of these things that can be distracting from work. But your body's saying to you, you can just feel it. Right, I'm here. I'm in the right environment that's going to support me to work through my to-do list.
Yeah, I think it's really important as well what you were saying about body scans. So we did this body scan, and that's something that you implement into your programs, I believe. Yeah. But it's such a small thing that you can do so quickly. And as we did it in the presentation, which was just like a little taster of what you can offer, I had a million thoughts coming through. And then I thought, what am I actually feeling? And it went from feeling, like I said, a bit stressed, that I hadn't kind of achieved what I wanted to this week. Then I thought, no, let's get some positivity in there. And I thought, you know what? I'm really grateful for this. And I'm really grateful to be here and listening to the presentation. And as soon as I started thinking those kind of things, your mood just lifts. Which and that sounds like a very small thing, but it's so important, isn't it?
And I was just writing about this today, that we often think our problems are big and they're scary and they're painful. Therefore, the answers, the solutions, the way to address them is going to be big and scary and painful. But it isn't. It really isn't. It's about finding the little things, because the little things are actually the huge, big, enormous things. They're the things that make the difference. And although they feel maybe small and you think that can't possibly make any difference, certainly not a big enough difference, or, I'll just get used to it and then it won't make a difference anymore. It's the opposite. It's the little things done consistently and done, I guess, consciously and with depth, so that we're actually noticing and observing and watching, because that's something I was sharing this morning. Don't judge. Don't try to label. Don't say, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. I should be feeling this, I shouldn't be feeling that. It's just about noticing. And then we can use that information, because that's all it is. It's just information from the body, and use that to see, where can I support myself a little bit more? Where are things working and I want to bring more of that in? Where are things not working and maybe I could turn it around a little bit? I could reframe it. I could change it. So basically, that's the sort of thing that I'm going to be sharing in this Create Your Own. It's about ways to start reframing things, to start looking at things in a different way, and to be open and curious rather than judging. Or when particularly I think as we get older and maybe we've been around for a while, we get a little bit cynical quite often, and we pick that up. We get these cynical voices from around us, and we start to, if we spend a lot of time, it's like, again, whatever environment you spend time in, it starts to rub off on you. So if you're noticing that the people around you are a bit cynical or a bit negative, try and find at least some other people who aren't. And for me, I've done that, particularly during lockdown when we couldn't get out and about, just by listening to people like Brene Brown or Gabor Mate. I love Gabor Mate, Bessel van der Kolk. They've written amazing books, so you can get them on audiobook. And even that, although you might not be able to meet people face to face, even that can be so uplifting. Or find movies that you love. So I have a passion at the moment for Patch Adams with Robin Williams, because it's based on a true story, and Patch was just this amazing guy who would go into situations and see them with fresh eyes, and see them with eyes that were just looking for the best and looking for the truth and the honesty behind everything, rather than people says, it has to be this way or it's this way. And he was like, well, but why? Why?
Yeah.
Why do we do things like this? Why do we have, he was in a mental institution for a while voluntarily. Why do we treat people like this? Why do we label them this way? Why don't we try to find out what's going on for them? So it's all of that kind of stuff. And I call it a create your own, just to explain that, because it's a set of modules, as I say, in 3 different levels that you pick and choose from. So if you want to do all of one section, all of the sections, that's absolutely fine. If you want to just pick some from the first section, some from the middle section, and some from the third section, that's equally fine. As I was saying as well, the first section is like a foundation. The second section builds on that. The third section is kind of for people who've been looking at well-being in this way for a while and maybe want to have some more specialist focused knowledge. So that'll be covering things like trauma and grief. So if people are practitioners as well, that might be something, because I've been working with crews, bereavement support, and doing some CPD sessions for their volunteers. And they were the ones who asked me, do you do this? Do you cover this topic? Is this something that you could help us with? So I thought maybe there's an interest out there. So I've included that in the modules as well.
Oh, I love that. I really love that. And like you were saying as well about creating your own, because sometimes you just need a little bit of focus in different areas. And you might, and as you develop, because if you've never kind of done anything before and you're just curious about how this is going to work, and you can take little sections and you can leave the rest, it can give you just a really good insight of how you can kind of start doing some development with yourself and things that you can understand and take part of without it kind of seeming strange at the first time, or because people are all different, aren't we? And I love the fact that you're saying about the as you get older, sometimes you've been around and surrounding yourself with the right sort of people. And I'm not saying that you obviously have your friends and family, and we're all different, but it is really, really important to have that positive uplifting. And there's something that I do now that I never used to do. I used to say yes to everything, and I'm now valuing that time much better. I still kind of overstretch myself sometimes, and that's fine, because we are all different. But I have learned to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that because I don't really feel like doing that today. And that's a big one. That's a huge one for me. So that can be something very different for each person. But it's about being able, because I think we all have choices, and I think a lot of the time we forget that. And sometimes you hear people go, oh, I've got this party and I've got this and I've got the whole weekend is booked up. And you go, well, actually, you have the choice to actually call that person and say, you know what, I'm just not feeling up to that party, and I'm going to take it easy and relax instead. And that's fine.
Yeah, it's entirely up to the individual, as long as it feels good. If you want to keep active, if that's your way of being, then that's great. But if it is tiring you out and you're feeling like everybody wants a bit of you and there's pressure coming in from all sides, and you just kind of reminded me of Beverly Jones from Awaken, her great saying of, when you say yes to everybody else, you're effectively saying no to yourself.
Yeah, that's a great one.
When you give all of your time and your energy away to other people, what have you got left for yourself? And I was talking to somebody else this morning at the networking group, saying that you just sometimes are so busy and you reach your own capacity level, you literally have nothing left to give. And then if something happens, like there's a death in the family, or something big and serious, and you need your time back for yourself, you're having to claw that back. You're having to apologize to people or let them down or feel that you're letting them down, because you just have nothing spare. And when you need it, where do you go? But also, where do you have time then to rest? I was sharing this morning how important that is, because our bodies need that. And the stress side of things, obviously, stress is not all bad. We need a certain amount of it. We need to get through our day. But then we need rest and repair. It's called that for a reason. And it helps us to sleep better. And there are so many benefits from getting a good night's sleep.
I think we're going to have a lot, because at the moment, a lot of, it's summer holidays, and a lot of parents are finding it really, really challenging to find any time for themselves. But I think that's where we need to sort of say, you don't have to. One of my friends was saying, who's got 3 boys, and she was saying, she feels sometimes she has to book up the weekend with lots of activities, because it's what you have to do. And society kind of tells us that what we have to do, and we have to go to all the birthday parties. Yeah. And the kids are then exhausted because they've been to eating sugar and they wild and it just goes absolutely crazy. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to recognize this, and they then think, how am I going to find time for myself? But you don't have to go to all the things. It's okay if the child misses a birthday party and you actually have maybe some quiet time instead. And all of those little things, I think, is something really important to kind of think about, because society sometimes very often say to us what we should be doing, and we need to be busy over the weekend, because otherwise we're a bit of a loner, or we kind of a little bit weird, like it's we should go out and socialize. But it's okay not to do that. And that I've learned that the hard way, as you very well know, because I am like a yes person, and I kind of go, but sometimes I love it, but other times I have to kind of learn to say no. So it's a really, really important one, I think, Robin. I love what you've done with the programme. So tell us a little bit about the last section of the Create Your Own Wild Wellbeing programme that you were saying that might go into a little bit more of a development side of things.
It's more sort of focused topics rather than I guess the first ones are laying a foundation, they're self-care, but these are about ones maybe that would support people in specific events in their lives, or if, as I said, they're a practitioner, like I've been working with crews, so they're bereavement support, so I'm doing some stuff around loss and how that impacts on us and the things that come up with loss. So anger, guilt, shame, and how do we deal with that, either for ourselves or for people that we are supporting or working with. So I'm looking at that, and also at trauma, because my perspective on trauma isn't that trauma is just the big things in life. So if we think of recent examples, there was the tube bombing in London, 9/11, the Grenfell Tower, the war in Ukraine. Of course, those are traumatic, but there are also the littler things, the things that we maybe later on we just dismiss. So perhaps the way a parent looked at you, the way a teacher spoke to you, the way a boss has bullied you in your workplace. And we think now that we're adults that, oh, I can just let that go. But maybe we haven't. And maybe it's still playing out in a loop inside of us. And it's to become conscious of that and to know how best to support ourselves and how we can address that and let it go, so that it's no longer sometimes stepping into the driving seat and making decisions and taking us in directions that we otherwise wouldn't want to go, just because we're trying to make ourselves feel safe in that moment. And then we look back and, did I really say that? Did I really do that? Oh my goodness. So I'll also be looking at some behaviors that we have sort of when things like that happen. And we've maybe got kind of addictions or compulsive behaviors, because we all have those too. And it's not, again, thinking of the big things like being a heroin addict or an alcoholic, but we all have things that we do when we feel a little bit stressed. We reach for the chocolate bar or the biscuit tin, or what's that shopping channel, QVC or something, in order to get that kind of a fix, because retail therapy or that little sweet treat helps us to feel good in the moment. But then later we're thinking, why did I eat all that chocolate? Or, oh, I've no money left at the end of the month because I spent it all on my shopping spree. So it's becoming more conscious and aware of how to support ourselves and where those behaviors come from, so that we have greater compassion for ourselves rather than beating ourselves up. Why did I eat that chocolate? I shouldn't have done that. And not another packet of biscuits gone, or whatever it might be. But just understanding and compassion. And then once we know that, we can support ourselves. We love ourselves more, and we have that appreciation. And just, yeah, we are better. We're in a much better position to know how to support ourselves as we would another person, another, our best friend, or so that we become our own best friend rather than, as we're often described as, being our own worst critic.
I love that. It's interesting you're talking about compassion, and it's a favorite song of mine at the moment from First Aid Kit called Angel. And it's about looking yourself in the mirror and not liking, basically, and it's about loving yourself. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. And the things you're talking about, they to give yourself compassion and actually looking after, number one. And what you were saying with trauma, because I think, we've all gone through various things in life, of course, you live. But sometimes you think that those traumas are gone. And every now and again, they come back in and you react, like you said, in a certain way. And it comes almost as a little bit of a shock because I thought those thoughts were gone. I thought I could cope with this now. So, I'm really, if anyone is feeling like that, I would just like you to sort of get in touch with Robin and get in touch about the program, because it is hugely beneficial to be able to learn some of those techniques of how you can actually get over and find techniques that you can use when those things come back into your life when you least expect them.
And it's about developing those tools that you'll have with you forever.
Yeah.
And
like
also
a little mindfulness toolbox or well-being toolbox.
Self-care toolkit, yeah. And you were talking about parents at the moment, because kids are off school and what do we do with them? And we'll take them to this, that, and the other thing and fill their time and keep them busy. But you're right, we don't have to do that. And even kids, although they generally have a lot more energy, they don't need to be rushing around doing things all of the time. And even having a bit of downtime can support them to rest and to chill and to just have that bit of space and time and quiet, because we all benefit from that. And it gives them tools when they grow up. Oh yeah, I remember when mum and dad used to just spend time with us, just going for a walk or just chatting or just sitting. I remember when I was a child and doing things like just looking at the night sky. And that's because I love nature, but I get that from my parents. And going outdoors, we had a dog growing up, and going for walks in the woods or going camping. These things, you don't have to do things or buy things. It's about the memories that you create together. And those don't have to be big things, because it's not something.
And those are the things usually that you remember the most. The things that I remember most are the things that happened with my nan when I was a child, and we were out in the woods and looking at different things. And you don't remember the fancy Christmas presents or whatever. You just remember those kind of things that really meant something growing up. And I think a lot of our society, like we were talking about earlier, kind of wants us to do these big things, and it's on the go all the time, and they need the biggest and bicycle and this and that. That's not what people are usually going to remember afterwards. And I think that's quite important, because it brings balance. And I think that's sometimes what we're missing, and we get so engrossed with what society expects that we're kind of missing that balance sometimes. And that can be quite hard, because this is all the things that the program can actually help with.
And I think it also brings connection, which is what we deeply crave. We want, because we are social beings, we want to feel connected, we want to feel accepted for who we are. And I think that's like your moments with your grandmother in the woods. You just feel, grandmother wanted to spend time with me. I felt precious in her eyes, because she would maybe say something and I would learn from her wisdom from all the years that she had lived, that she was passing on. And you just feel part of that line of history. And that's so big. And that's, I think, the things that we treasure.
Absolutely. So on that note, I think it's really lovely to bring in, because you're going to share a very sort of simple exercise that you shared in your presentation, which I absolutely loved. And we're going to share it live so you can utilize this little tool at home as well. So yeah, over to you, Robin.
Thank you. So basically this uses the traditional Chinese medicine qi lines of energy, and they travel up through the hands, through the fingers, and each finger then has its own particular connection. But just to focus on one of those, if you hold the first two, so the index finger and the middle finger, just wrap your other hand, and it doesn't matter which way around, left or right, just wrap your other hand around those two fingers and just hold them. It's like making that connection we were just talking about with yourself. So we were talking earlier about self-compassion, but the qi flows down through the arm that's holding that to the hand that's holding the other hand, and then it just kind of makes that circuit, that connection, and we feel held and supported. But those two fingers send a message, it's okay. So when we hold them and breathe, so just being conscious of your breathing and breathing deep down into the belly, feeling the air going right in, all the way down, and feeling it bringing in all that wonderful oxygen, that life force energy. And if you want to add a mantra, just say, it's okay. Right here, right now, in this moment, I am safe and all is well. And it just helps to ground you, center you, bring you into the present moment. So rather than our brains often are scattered in so many different directions, I've got this to remember and that to do, and it just brings you back down and just brings you into the present moment and brings your energy out of busyness and fight or flight and into rest and repair. And it's something you can do really discreetly. So if you just put your hands down where they would hang naturally, nobody needs to know that you're doing anything to, that you're feeling maybe a little bit anxious or a little bit nervous or a little bit tired, whatever it might be. Nobody needs to know that you're just giving yourself that little bit of support.
That feels really calming, doesn't it? Just brings you back sort of. And like you said, sometimes if you're feeling nervous in certain situations, it's something that you can do under the table or wherever you are. And people don't need to know that you're kind of connecting with yourself. I love that. So thank you so much for sharing that, Robin.
Pleasure. I think it's kind of nurturing and nourishing. Those are my two words for the year. Yeah. And I think it just fits in with that perfectly.
And that's a great way, I think, to start off the weekend, just to connect with yourself and just really feel and think about how you actually feel. What do you want to do? And, where are you in yourself and in the space? I think it's so important. It's just something that we don't do enough of, is it?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to find more about Robin and Equenergy, obviously you can find her on xenobounds.co.uk. You have an incredible selection of meditation on your website. So Robin, equenergy.com, everyone can see up there as well. Where else can they find you, Robin?
I'm on social media. If you go to my website, at the top, the last tab is resources. If you click on that or hover over that, you'll see links list. And there you can find my socials. So I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook as a page, and also as a group. If anybody would like to come along, just dip your toe in. And, if it's not for you, I won't be offended if you want to leave again. But if you give me your email address, if you sign up to the group, then you get my Wild Wisdom Wellbeing guide. It's just a simple set of sort of steps to take based on WILD, because everything is my acronym. It's the 4 steps, 4 pillars that I work to. So yeah, I'm very happy to connect. There's also a Let's Connect tab on my website, so you can email me or message me through the form or book a chat with me on Zoom.
And I think if you've enjoyed what we've been talking about and you're curious, remember that a phone call doesn't cost anything. You can just get in touch with Robin, and she's very, very happy to have a really sort of short, brief consultation of how she might be able to help you. And that is all free. So you can just book a little quick chat to see if it's something that you can do. So if you enjoyed this, do go to the comments in the box. Will be available later, and you can find out all the details of how you can get in touch with Robin as well. Thank you ever so much. I really enjoyed this, and what a lovely way to start the weekend. So thank you, Robin. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope that we will have a lovely sunny couple of days. That would be
Thank
wonderful.
you, Charlotte. And can I just add that at the moment, the Create Your Own Wild Wellbeing Programme is being sort of in test mode. It's in beta mode. So there is a really good reduction on the cost. If anybody is interested, just take a look on my website or have a chat with me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Robin. And we look forward to seeing you very soon again. Take care. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And do put your comments in if you're watching on #replay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.